Da-da-da-dum, ba-ba-da-bum, ba-da-da-bum, bum, 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 bum. Doctor Who Review, Episode 4 of Series 15, Lucky Day. This is a Dr. Light episode. Huzzah! Though it's bookended by appearances from Ncuti Gatwa at the beginning and the end. It starts with the current story thread with their magic umbrella, or whatever it's called, ending up on Earth on New Year's Eve, but the Doctor comes out and goes, "Boy, what day is this?" And the boy goes, "Why, Doctor, it's New Year's Eve 2007. And he gives him 50p because I'm not saying that's wrong or right. Who am I to judge? You know, if you give a small urchin 50p for favours, I don't know. But that's the setup. They're in the wrong year. The boy is entranced by the TARDIS appearing and disappearing, materialising, dematerialising, and gets a clip round his ear by his booze-loving mum. That's important because that's the foundation of his character. That's telegraphing so much. Now, at the time, the opening scene, Verity, my daughter, said, "That's the boy from Adolescence." And I said, "Doctor, watch out, he's going to shank you." And we joked about him being, you know, red-pilled. Hold that thought, because we didn't know what the story how it was going to pan out, but we were taking the mickey because that's what we do. We take the mickey of it. So anyway, it spins away, and this character Conrad, he's like Clive. Do you remember Clive from the very first episode of the first season series with Eccleston? And Clive was the guy in the shed who gets, again, they killed him off far too soon. He should have been a recurring character. It would have been good if they could have brought him back. But you think he's a kind of Clive character. He is doing podcasts and thing, and he's searching for Ruby Sunday, because he manages to kind of follow the Doctor last year in last season series in a story that looked more interesting than anything they put out last season series. And there's the monster called the Shrek. Shrek? No, I ain't right. Shrek is love. Shrek is life. The Shriek. That's right, the Shriek. I don't know why it was called that. But anyway. And they're in a department store, and there's a bit of an Autumn vibe going on there. And so he sees Ruby, and he's kind of enamoured by her, and they meet and they fall in love, and that's the premise. That is the premise. And it's a Dr. Light episode, and it's good. And you go, God, I miss Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. She's always good when 73 yards. She was good in that, right? And she's good in this one as well. And it tootles along, and it's an interesting. The original premise is really interesting because it's a love affair. They fall in love. It's all But then he says about the Shriek, and she says, "Here's the antidote. It could be following you." She tells them, she explains, and they go away together, and they're in a pub. There was a good joke about the Wicker Man, and that got a thumbs up by all of us. About the old lady watching the Wicker Man, so that got a thumbs up. I enjoyed that. And there will be, I've got to mention, there will be spoilers, of course, because we're talking through the story. And it appears that they're going to be attacked by the Shriek. And he says, "I haven't taken the antidote. I want to be as strong as the Doctor." And you think, okay, really, but there's reasons because Russell T Davies does a switcheroo, and it's really good. It's a really good switcheroo, which we didn't see coming, and it was a good thing. So if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. Seriously, it is a good episode. because there is an important plot point which I'm going to talk about. So go and watch that first and then come back to this, because it is worth your time. It really is worth your time, because it's good out. This shows that Russell T Davies can construct a story, right? But there are problems. We'll talk about that at the end. And then, so anyway, this Conrad chap, I'm thinking Heart of Darkness for some reason. Captain Kurtz. Mr. Kurtz, he dead. Heart of Darkness. Joseph Conrad. Sorry, just my brain is just gone over there. So anyway, it's a big reveal that it's all a setup. Conrad is not a good guy. He's a bad guy. I hope I got his name right. It was Conrad, wasn't it? It was Conrad. I know it began with a C. Anyway, him and his mates, it was all a spoof. He's part of this organisation called Think Tank. They might be coming back. That might be important. And they're there to expose UNIT, because UNIT is a fake and a fraud, and the government's wasting money on UNIT. So it's what Davis is doing is he's created like an Andrew Tate character who wants to expose, an Elon Musk, Andrew Tate kind of right wing. Again, you don't need to. That's where it goes wrong. That's where it goes wrong. You don't need to give them a political edge, because if you think back to programs like the X-Files, or anyone who follows UFOs and Area 51, they don't usually have a politics. They're usually just interested in finding the truth. But Davis has to stuff. He gets his rubber glove on and he stuffs it right up your ideological hole and wriggles it around for a bit. But anyway, he's not a nice person, and they're going to expose UNIT for what it is. And you go, oh, that's a really good take. And after the program finished, I said to the kids, I said, because they've not watched it as long as I have, because UNIT's been in the show for a very long time. And I said, the thing about UNIT, I said, is they've created Conrad. Conrad is a creation of UNIT, because UNIT covers up the alien presence because they don't want the public to know. It's a mass delusion event, or there's been a chemical spill. There's usually an explanation to get all this to go away. When there's a big alien attack in, in Canary Wharf. Oh, you imagined it, And of course, Conrad wants to know the truth. He wants to know if it's real or not. And so every time that UNIT is successful, that adds fuel to Conrad's fire, doesn't it? So it's an interesting thing. Should UNIT really reveal that there are aliens out there in the Doctor universe and allow the public to know the truth? I like that idea, because again, UNIT's been existing for a long time. I think that's something, again, in this age of conspiracy theories and those people who are go online and want to know the truth. I think that's kind of an interesting idea to play with. So this culminates with Conrad breaking into UNIT with a camera. He's going to live stream it, and there's a big kind of Mexican standoff. But what's her name? Old Lethbridge Stewart. He insults the Brigadier too. That's how evil he is. Basically sets the Shriek is love, Shrek is life. He sets the Shriek. She sets the Shriek on him, and that's how it kind of resolves itself with Ruby saving the day. But again, these characters are poke at everybody who has a go at Doctor Who, because he even says about Ruby, that's a stupid name. Is that even your name? Because we get tired of Russell T Davies' lazy naming conventions, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so he gets put in prison, but then he gets released by Mrs. Flood. Not before the Doctor materialises around him. Now, I said to the kids, I think the Doctor's going to materialise the TARDIS around him at some point. I had a funny feeling that was going to be used. I thought it was going to be when the Shriek was biting him, the TARDIS would appear and the Doctor was going to kind of step in, but it happens when he's in his prison cell. And then we get Ncuti Gatwa delivering his, "You're a very bad man and you're going to die old and alone." You know, because this is wishful thinking on Russell T Davies's account. This is Russell T Davies talking and not the Doctor, because the Doctor is not like that. The Doctor wants to find the good. He wants to point the error of his ways. The real Doctor would fly Conrad to the furthest point of the universe, open the TARDIS doors and go, "Look, that's what's out there," and it would change him fundamentally. You know, he'd say, "Look," because he knows that's what would happen. You know, this isn't the Doctor talking. This is Russell T Davies, who is ideologically driven, and he wants to bloody the nose of anybody who is not, you know, drinking from the same chalice, the same poison chalice that he's drinking from. And that's where I have an issue with the story. I mean, he had a really tight story going until anyone who questions anything is bad. We have to have skeptics in this world. We have to have people who question. Even if you don't agree with them, there has to be the skeptic. There has to be those who question the narrative, even if it's crazy. We need flat earthers to make the rest of us feel like we're sane. You know, we need these people. We might not think we do, but we do need. And sometimes, even the crazies sometimes stumble upon the truth. Sometimes there are cover-ups, you know. So you should always be sceptical in this world. And Davis's diatribe relates to blind adherence, and that's not good. That's not good for anyone. You should always question things, and that's what the Doctor was always about. We can't be too sure. We should always question. And he would have saved Conrad. He would have opened the door, TARDIS doors, and he would have shown him the universe, and he would have changed him like that. It would have instantly changed him, but he didn't. He put him back in his cell, tell him he was going to die, and that doesn't feel. Again, this is where you get, as a 54-year-old man, you go, "God, I'm taking this far too seriously." Really? But it just feels off. It just feels off. The Doctor is always finding the best in people, not the worst. You know, and that's the difference between this Doctor and all the preceding Doctors. And that doesn't sit well with me. Other than that, I thought it was a really, really good episode. I think it had real potential, apart from that, you know, that constant punching on the nose that they have to do. Without that, again, imagine if, I don't know, you hadn't had that in bit with the Doctor and Mrs. Flood just let him out. It would have made the character much more interesting. But what the Doctor's done by doing this is he's made Conrad's character more vengeful. He's actually, if he comes back and if he's responsible for, like, the finale, if he has a hand in the finale, then the Doctor's created his own, like, nemesis, and that's not what the Doctor has ever been about. And that's what's it, hubris, I think the word is. That's not what we're dealing with here. But other than that, like I said, I really enjoyed it up to a point, and then you go, "Oh, Russell, you should have pulled out, mate. You left it in too long. You should have withdrawn." And he didn't. And other than that, I thought it was really good fun. And again, it leaves you with that problematic feeling that the episodes without Ncuti Gatwa in are always better, because I loved 73 Yards and I like this one. I really do. I think they were very good episodes. And maybe I just don't like Gatwa. Maybe, you know. Or maybe I don't like the writing, you know. That's probably it. I don't like the way he's written, because he doesn't feel like the Doctor to me. And that might all be resolved. You know, that might all be, you know, this bi-generation thing might actually be a fragment, you know. Maybe Ncuti turns into the Valyard. I mean, the Valyard was... got to come from somewhere. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. I'm sorry, but there you go. That's my analysis. I thought it was, again, very strong, interesting, fun episode. The Doctor-like episodes always are, and I think it had the chance to really explore some interesting ideas. But by putting a political edge to it and saying that they're all kind of red pilled and they're all kind of incels, that was the kind of the inference of it. I think ruined it, because again, they're always, life isn't like that. They've got this very peculiar idea of what life is, and it's kind of reinforced by the media, like the Adolescent Show, which is, you know, a white middle class fantasy on what, you know, the knife crime epidemic is, not the actual thing. It's a fantasy, and I think that does good. It does a lot of harm, more harm than good. You know, whereas, you know, in the 80s and 90s we used to get social dramas that actually reflected what was going on in our society. You know, it held a long, hard look, you know, into the mirror, held it up, and it was hard. It was hard to palate, and that's the whole point. Whereas now we soften it and we create narratives that don't actually exist, and they're there to just kind of salve the conscience of a certain middle-class white left-leaning demographic. And to think I consider myself left-leaning, there you go. And I always find it really troublesome, because there's no understanding. There is no understanding there. It's just one way. So yeah, Doctor Who gets red-pilled. I think that's the theme. Thank you for watching. I shall grab, I think I'm going to grab an old-fashioned one. This is my first one. This is my first sonic screwdriver. You can tell, look, see, it's got a few battle scars. So yeah, thanks for watching. Remember, folks, be careful where you put your sonic screwdriver. Ta-ta.